Hi and good evening. Well, it is evening in the UK. Just thought I'd show you a really simple little video on some kind of beginner stuff on dotting. Variety of bits and pieces I've got around me. I personally do use a thinning agent from time to time when my paints get a bit thick. That's what's in the bottle. Palette knife that I then use to stir them up, because I keep my paints in little pots. These ones actually happen to be a makeup pot that I managed to get hold of. They have little lids that screw on. Then I can keep the paint for as long as, for a reasonable amount of time anyway. If it gets a little bit thick, I add another little bit of thinning agent to it, and that works quite nicely. I have, as you can see, a very well used tissue alongside me that I kind of wipe my dotting tools on in between. I haven't got my paintbrushes out because I thought I'd work on simple stuff to begin with. So I've got a variety of dotting tools. You can see they're kind of around here. And then the transfer punch set, which has been talked about most commonly. So that's my transfer punch set. You can see a whole variety of kind of circular objects there. It's not totally in the shot, but there you go, you can see where it is. If I pull my mat a little bit towards me, there we go, slowly appearing. And the obligatory cup of British tea, sitting over at the corner, there we go, totally proving I'm a Brit. As if the voice didn't give me away. So I'm going to start. I've marked out the centre. You can see there's a slight darker dot in the centre there. I've marked out the centre of my piece of card. I'm using cardstock simply to show you how I do this. I find cardstock easier to practice on, which is why I thought showing you cardstock would be the way forward. So I'm going to start with dark blue. I want a nice dark blue centre, so I've got a nice bit of paint on the end of my dotting tool there, and I'm literally just going to pop it down onto that, and I wait for the card to almost kind of absorb the paint. Don't push down too hard. If you push down too hard, it then kind of slurps out all over the place. And I, as you can see, hence the disgusting tissue, wipe my dotting tools in between use, which then means I don't have to spend hours and hours cleaning them. Lazy, but at the same time not so lazy. So then pick out my dotting tools. I don't want this too small because obviously on camera it's not so easy to see if I get it too small. So I'm using manicure styles. These are commonly used for painting dots on nails, painting nail art designs. Personally, I feel like I'm going to start with a nice deep red in the centre. So same principle again. Grab the paint on the end of my dotting tool and mark out. I do it by marking my 4/4, so it goes into the paint each time. Tiny bit of paint on my dotting tool, and there's my 4/4. Once I've got my 4/4, roughly equal sized dots, it's much easier to then go for those in between ones, because you've got a good idea where they're going to be. It's easier to judge if you do the 4 quadrants first. So there's my first 4, quite small. I'm trying to get it big, but I don't know how this is going to appear on the film. Not done one of these before, you probably realise. Then going for a slightly lighter reddy colour, which is going to go in between. There we go. Once you've marked out those 4 quadrants, you have a reasonable size or spacing that allows you to then work in between them and feel fairly confident that you've got reasonable spacing all the way around. Not perfect, I mean, it never really is. There's my second set of dots. Each time I'm getting a slightly bigger dotting tool, cleaning it off in between, because obviously I am, as I said, in my own way fairly lazy, but it makes less work if you clean them as you go. So I've now gone with the reds. I'm going to put a nice kind of shiny red in next. Probably be able to see these because they're a lot bigger. hopefully they're appearing on the screen. I have no idea because I can't see my video as I'm going because I'm using a video camera. The reason I'm using a video camera, I actually make videos for revision purposes because I teach science and I make videos for revising science or study along with me. And on those, again, I don't watch what I'm doing. I have what they call talking hands, so I spend the time kind of writing. So that's where I am at the moment. I've got my pinks, my blue and my gold that I haven't touched yet. So fairly straightforward, simple design. If I move it up a little bit to the camera, I'm not the best at this, you can see. There we go, nice simple design so far. Okay, so let's carry on with that. Done the pinks. I'm actually going to have, I've got this blue and I like this blue, so I'm now going to take my blue and just do 3 dots of blue leading out from these bigger blobs of red, because that's going to allow me to go in between and then take my design in between them and have larger dots in between. So just carrying on again, same as before. I'm doing my 4 quadrants first because then I find it easier to go in between those quadrants and get a good idea of my spacing once I've marked them on. Until I mark them on, I find it a little bit difficult to work out where my 4 corners, effectively, although it does a circle if I have a corner, where those 4 corners are. I'm now going to go back to the transfer punch set, much smaller than I originally started with. I started on my centre with this one. I'm now in this one, which is a lot smaller. You can see the sizes are a lot smaller. And I'm going to go with the pink this time. So I've got a kind of matte pink. It's going to go in there. So in goes the matte pink. Doing this fairly quickly, so some of my spacing might be a little bit off because obviously you're going to get bored stiff if you're sitting and watching me for a long time. And I haven't yet mastered the slow motion, quick motion, you name it, change the speed of it. So there we go, that's cleaning off that one. Goes back in, nice and easy. I feel gold coming on. So I'm going to go with a much smaller dotting tool this time. You can see the end of this stylus is really small. I want a small size because I'm going to do a little bit of walking the dots. You're going to find that I'm turning this a little bit as well now, as walking the dots isn't so easy when you're in a straight line. So 1 on the end and then 1, 2, 3 coming down the side. 1 on the end, 1, 2, 3 coming down the side. I'm only doing half circles on these because that's what I want. 1 on the end again, 1, 2, 3. Metallics sometimes are a little bit difficult to work with, as you're seeing with this gold. It does sometimes ribbon and run if you're not careful with them. They are probably the hardest colours to work with, the metallics, because they do have a bad habit of, as I said, ribboning and running. Irrespective of the consistency that you get in them, metallic paint seems to have a habit of doing what it wants to do, whether you want it to or not, as I said. Last one, so 1 on the end, and again 1, 2, 3. At the moment, no top dots. Obviously, if I was going to top dot this, I need to give it time to dry before I top dot. As I said, not master the slow motion on the camera, so this is pretty much as I'm doing it. I'm then going to go with a larger transfer punch set, and I want this brighter pink next. So my brighter pink, there we go, gorgeous bright pink. I'm going to go right on the end of these, just taking over my last dot. So you can see my last blue dot is just being touched by the pink, because I wanted it to just almost consume that last dot. So it's kind of part and parcel of the same thing, they flow into each other. So there you go, there's my pinks on, and doing the honours again on the lazy yet not lazy cleanup, because as you can see they come out looking pretty good and you don't have to worry about the whole cleaning them up game, which can take quite some time. So I've got my funky pink. I'm going to go back to, at that point, my red, and we're going to have another little walking dots. So one on the end, again, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to take it down 4 this time, because it's slightly larger, so 1 on the end, and 1, 2, 3, 4, carries on round, 1 on the end, 1, 2, 3, 4. I do have a bad habit of counting so that I don't actually end up doing a different number of dots on them. I know the more experience, the longer you do this, the easier it becomes. I'm not even a year in, so you could say I'm still well and truly learning. So I started in, what was it, August last year? So with it being May, I'm probably coming up June, July, August on my 9-month anniversary. As I say, the longer you do this for, the better you become. It really is something that you have to spend the time practicing. If you don't, you struggle. More practice gives you better control over them. I'm then going to go for the slightly different coloured red. And you see the dots are slightly larger, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and take it down 5 this time. Same stylus as I used for the other dots, but I'm having more paint on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is why it's producing those larger dots. So you can use the same stylus and get bigger dots from it just by altering the amount of paint that you're using. So more paint gives a bigger dot, a bigger stylus gives a bigger dot as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not very good at counting and thinking at the same time, so you have to excuse me. 1, and then dip up the paint. 1, 2, 3. Not got that one enough yet. 3, 4, 5. Still going. Number 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're moving round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. Pretty simple design, but at the same time gives you an idea of what the skills are that you're going to need to do this. I'm going to go for the last colour now, and I want a bigger dibber or blotting tool, whatever you want to call it. I do use the phrase dibber because they are dibbers. I'm dipping them in the paint and then dipping them on the paper. So last one, my kind of funky red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this time. Okay, gone up 1 each time because that then increases the length of the run that you are doing, and you want it longer because you're further out, so obviously it's got to be longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you're feeling like you're running out of paint, just turn the dibber around, or the dotter, and you will have paint on the side that you haven't been using. 5, 6. So you'll see that sometimes when I'm dotting, I will rotate the dotter. Whoa, that was a big one. 1, 2, 3, 6, because I feel like I'm running out of paint. So I rotate and it gives me a little bit more that I needed. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I can't count. 5, 6. 2 more to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. See, I can't count. On the end. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So that was the 6 round each time. Personally, looks to me pretty done. I don't see that that's going to require any more. Sometimes you can go back and you can overdot these. I'm not going to overdot at this point in time. A top dot simply means that you get a slightly smaller dibber than the one you originally used, a slightly smaller dotter, and you put a dot of either a contrasting or a similar colour on top of it. So where I've got, for example, the matte pinks, I might come in and put a slightly more metallic pink on top. Where I've got the reds, I then might choose to put a very, very differently contrasting dark blue on top, just to kind of emphasise the points. Personally, I don't want to do any more with that than I've done, so if I move that up to the camera, go right that way, you can see there is my simple design.